Yes, it is. Okay. Welcome to episode 14 of Chris's Creative Corner, season 1. Thank you so much for tuning in. I couldn't do this without you. Literally, I need listeners. So if you know people who are looking for a podcast and they're kind of interested in books and they're interested in audiobooks, send them my way. I mean, some audiobooks, chapters are so long. The chapters here are not that long. So I'd like to think that that's actually a really good thing, that you can listen on your commute to work if you're only commuting 15 to 20 minutes. You can listen to a couple chapters if your commute is longer. You can listen to an episode while you're cooking dinner and then you're done. You don't have to stop in the middle and then try to remember where you are and all that kind of stuff. I'm selling my podcast, sorry. Yeah. The point is, thank you for tuning in. So grateful. Let's start out with questions for Chris. The first question comes from a friend of mine in my cohort, and they asked, what is your writing kryptonite? And I have no idea. What is my weakness when it comes to writing? I think, probably for many writers, it's social media. I can easily get lost on my phone, and pretty soon I spent an hour on social media when I sat down to write. And so I'm doing all this tweeting or, posting a couple TikToks or something. And then it's what are you doing right now? Writing. A bullshit is the answer to that. I'm not writing. I'm social media-ing. So that's always fun and interesting to do, is get distracted by social media. That's the downside to the internet, is social media. But the upside is that I need it. I need it for writing. I can Google so many interesting and crazy things, like my search history on it's so crazy. Just thinking about the things that I've looked up, are there scorpions in Africa? Just random things. Yes, there are, by the way. I looked it up. So there are, in case you were wondering. So that is my writing kryptonite, is the internet/social media. One thing that you may not know is that I'm filming these podcasts on a screen as well and posting them other places. So if you're listening, there's also a video version as well. I will post where that's available, wherever I can post it. And people are noticing that I have a tattoo on my arm. So for the people who are just listening, my tattoo is a feather quill. It is, I'll lean forward to show the camera. There, I'm showing my whole arm. So my tattoo is on my right arm, and what it is it's a feather quill, but it's a watercolored rainbow along the feathers. And then I have an ink drop for each book that I've published going down my arm. So far, it's not even down to my elbow or anything yet, but it's there. And so the tip of it is red, and then it goes down to purple right before the actual quill part starts. And then I have the ink drops. So yeah, my tattoo guy, his name is Aaron. He's absolutely amazing. So yeah, for sure, I definitely want another tattoo, and I'm thinking about a phoenix rising from the ashes. I might do a rainbow phoenix because gay, or I might not. So we'll just have to see how that goes. So that was the second question. I'll answer a third question this time, because that one was more like a visual thing for people who are watching. This question is, have you ever gotten reader's block? And the answer is yes. I had reader's block anytime that I was required to read. So all throughout school, I've had reader's block. And it's interesting because there are books that I try to read for enjoyment that are based around the stuff that I'm learning, the content of counseling. And so I'm actually trying to read The Gift of Therapy. And it's just hard for me to get into because every time I sit down, there's that stupid voice in my head. Everybody has this voice. Does yours sound like your mom? Because mine sounds like my mom with you could be doing much more important things. You have lots of homework. You have responsibilities that you have to attend to. And you sitting down and reading for enjoyment is not one of those responsibilities. And I can sit there and try and argue with my mom and be like, Mom, it's self-care. And I usually don't win that argument because I am the youngest child and she is my mother. So, yeah, if you have that voice, I totally get it because I have it too. So, yeah, that is reader's block. Hopefully, once I am finished with school, get all the things done that I want to have done, and I have time to myself to actually, like, what is it? A French relax? I think that's the word. Relaxation. It's such a foreign word to me now. I should look it up. I should figure out what it means and do it. Anyway, once I can relax and have time to myself, I would love to get past my reader's block. That would be very exciting. But yeah, so those are all the questions for Chris for this episode. And now we're going to turn to chapter 14 of Porch Light, my romance. My first romance. So last chapter was the fallout from Nick losing his job, which actually ended up being perfectly timed with the fact that they got their first royalties check. Each of the band members got a royalties check for what their videos sold in ad revenue and stuff like that online, and what their music video made, and their radio stations playing their song and stuff. So they each got a check for $29,000, which is like party. Very excited for them. And then Omar called Nick and said that not only is the album finished, it's going to be released next month. And they have lined up a tour for them to open for Pentatonics, who is amazing, and Neon Trees. And I've actually met Tyler Glenn. Like, he's so amazing and so kind. I follow him on Instagram. If you don't, you totally should. And his mother, Debbie, is a goddess. The Mama Dragons. We held an event here in Southeast Idaho where it was just amazing to hear her story. And I just love them both so much. They're such beautiful souls. So, and then, of course, there's the confused messaging last chapter where between Nick and Casey, Nick convinced Casey to perform. So I'll just say it. Nick gave Casey a blowjob while he was really drunk, while Nick was drunk. Casey had been drinking. Casey did not handle that well. He was crying in bed, and Nick woke up and didn't say anything. And it's like, now Nick is kind of recognizing, like, hey, I've got, some serious stuff going on. Like, I can't believe this happened. They haven't talked about it. But Casey got really drunk, like really, really drunk. Are you noticing a theme? I feel like you should be noticing a theme. Okay. Let's get into the chapter. Chapter 14, Transition and Change. Things did change for us very quickly. Omar followed up his call with a list of dates and times where we would need to be in Nashville to do press and performances. We only had a few days in King before that happened, so we made the most of it, performing one last show at the Amazon. We also got on the local news during the morning show. Turns out their morning anchor was a fan. Well, she was super into Casey. I was glad we were leaving to begin the press elsewhere. We went to Nashville for another month while we played gigs and did more interviews and such. I was nervous about going back, but I also didn't text Tony to let him know we were back in his city. Things were going well with Casey. Well, I mean, things were still going nowhere. We didn't talk about that drunken night, so I assumed he wanted to pretend it never happened, which hurt. But I also kept reminding myself of his sobbing body the next morning. He had been pushed to do something with me he clearly didn't want to do, so I didn't want to push him anymore. We were friends, first and foremost. I had to keep reminding myself that I didn't want to be one of those gay guys who tried to turn their straight friends. I wanted Casey to be himself, and I wanted him to be happy. He was happy being my friend, nothing more. But I still couldn't stop myself from hoping. Soon, the whole month had gone by, and my favorite part of it was finally getting off my crutches. I still wore a knee brace to bed, but I was mostly doing good with walking. Finally, we were getting ready for the day of our album release. Omar had booked us at the Ryman Theater, home of the Grand Ole Opry. I couldn't believe it. Everything was coming together. We were getting ready to do a sound check that morning when Omar pulled me aside. "Where's Casey?" I looked around. "I don't know. I thought he was here. I'll call him." No answer. "Maybe he's still sleeping in the hotel room. I'll go get him." "Just give me your room key. You need to be here for sound check." He was very frustrated. I didn't like the idea of Casey being in trouble. An hour later, Casey showed up looking pretty rough. He was definitely hungover. No, wait. Watching him move and stand for a second, I realized he was still drunk. Omar was shouting directions at the sound booth, so I whispered at Casey, "Hey, you okay?" He gave me a bleary grin. "Never better." I caught Levi's intense gaze. I could tell he was worried about Casey too. "All right, let's get to it." We started playing through, but Casey was struggling. He staggered around the stage for a little while before he just sat down on one of the amps. Omar brought him a coffee on stage and whispered something in his ear. Casey shook his head and popped up, immediately looking like he was trying to play the part of the sober guy who everyone knows is actually drunk. But it worked. Casey continued to drink his coffee as we worked through all the sound until later that afternoon when we all went out to eat. "You feeling better, Case?" I rubbed his back as we sat in the booth at a local restaurant. He groaned. "I definitely went too hard last night." "We didn't even go out." Kennedy looked at me with expectant eyes. What was I supposed to do? Were we supposed to have a talk right here, right now? "Just take it easy for the next few days." Maybe a light suggestion would help. "Maybe don't drink tonight. I mean, we're all getting older. We start handling drinking and stuff differently as we get older." Pshaw. Are you kidding? Of course we're partying tonight. He took a drink of his water. "We're playing a huge show and celebrating our album. That's a big deal." "All right, but I'll be watching you." I scowled at him as best I could while reaching for my vibrating phone. I pulled it out of my pocket and saw a message from Tony, the Out Gazette guy. I read the message and gasped. "Hey, that interview I did got published today. The writer sent me a link." "Send it to me and I'll publish it on our site." We spent the next few minutes all reading the article. When I looked up, Casey was looking at me in shock. "What?" "What do you mean, what? You just read the same article I did. What the fuck, dude?" "Okay, there were parts I didn't like, but..." Casey read off his phone. "His straight friend who likes to make out with guys when drunk, we've all had one of those, right, boys, has been a source of steady support and comfort to Nick during his difficult relationship with his homophobic parents. We used to call each other bromo, like because I was gay, it couldn't be just a regular bromance, so we were bromos. I love Casey and he loves me. He tells me all the time, if he were gay, I would totally want to be with him." Levi's eyes were wide as he looked between us. Even Kennedy looked a little pissed at me. "But there was more to that quote. I complimented you. I said you were like the perfect guy." "Nick, that part is basically saying I'm gay." I looked at it again. "I mean, yeah, he's implying it, but..." "No, he outright said it. You implied it. Why would you tell people we were called bromos?" I frowned. "Why are you getting so upset, Casey?" "Because I'm not gay." "What, so there's something wrong with being gay?" "When I'm not gay and someone calls me gay, yeah, that's a problem for me." I scoffed. "Fine. I'll text him and ask him to print a retraction or an apology." "That's not it, Nick." He folded his arms and sat back from me. "You don't get it. I'm not gay. It's like you think I am from what it sounds like in this article. Oh, and I'm sure your parents would be thrilled to know how you made them out to be giant homophobes." I stared at him for a moment, eyes and mouth wide. "They are! They called us pedophiles. It's 'cause they thought I was gay. You told me to tell them we were dating. That was you." He stood up. "Yeah, 'cause I was trying to be supportive. If I'd known you'd misunderstand like this..." "Nick, I'm not gay and I'll never be with you. How many times do I have to tell you before you get it? But you kiss me all the time. That's just when we've been drinking or whatever. They don't mean anything. I stood up too. Oh, I get it just fine now. I see what you're really worried about is people thinking you're gay. There's a word for that. Homophobe. I never thought you'd be so offended by someone calling you gay. Oh, don't you do that self-righteous bullshit with me. I'm not Hector. If anyone's the homophobe, it's you. It took you how many years to come out after you'd started dating guys? You saw firsthand why I didn't want to come out to my parents. Kennedy stepped in. Guys, it's like you think because I'm nice to you, I want to be with you. Get it through your head, Nick. I don't want to be with you. Ever. He shouted the last word at me and stormed out. I looked around, my face burning with shame as people all around the diner were looking at us. I sat down, breathing heavily. I'd never had a fight like that with Casey. I had half a mind to go chasing after him. I guess he just needs time to chill, Levi suggested softly. I rounded on the two of them. You were the ones who encouraged me in the first place. Kennedy held up a finger, eyebrows raised. Do not go there right now. We want you both to be happy. Clearly that's not happening right now, so maybe you need to rethink some things about your friendship with Casey. He says he's not gay, so maybe he's not, and you need to let him go. Don't ruin a friendship by making it more than it is. Levi took a sip of water, looking troubled. I trailed off, not knowing what I was going to say. Levi patted my arm sympathetically. Us too. Our food came a moment later. We took Casey's to go, and the rest of us sadly ate through our meal. When we got back to the hotel, we found Casey's room empty. No bag. Nothing. My heart was pounding as I looked at the note he'd left on the hotel's notepad. Got my own room. Can't deal with drama right now. I'll keep doing the band stuff. Just give me some space. Casey. I sat down on the end of his bed and began to cry. Kennedy came in and put her arm around me. She smelled good too, like lavender and coconut. But she wasn't Casey. The one person I wanted to comfort me was the one person who needed space from me. I missed his cologne when he hugged me. I missed him already. It's only been like an hour and I miss him bad. You got it bad for him. You don't know the half of it. I told her all about me and Casey's 2 drunken nights. Her eyes were wide when I finished telling her the stories. I mean, wow. First of all, I had no idea. Casey didn't say anything. He didn't say anything to me either. I mean, the first time he apologized and we were cool, but he hasn't even talked to me about the second time. I don't even know if he remembers or what. Junior, he's definitely got some problems. I mean, he may have done some stuff with you, but he's been taking girls home a lot. Like less since you've been living with him, but like the night you flew to Nashville, he had a date that night. She adjusted herself on the bed and continued. That's why he was in a hurry to see you off to the airport. He told me about it. He was worried you'd be mad at him. He's known for a while you like him, and he's fighting with himself about feeling guilty for being with women. Maybe I should have told him I hooked up with the reporter while I was here last time. Maybe that would have made it better. Maybe that would have made it worse? Because you were talking about Casey with the guy you were sleeping with? I sighed and rubbed my forehead. I don't know how to fix this. She patted my leg. Time, Nick. He just needs time. And that's the end of chapter 14, and what a chapter it was. Holy crap. Definitely tune in next week to see what happens and how things go between Nick and Casey. It's intense, even just reading it years after I've written it, and it's like, whoa. So, yeah. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Chris's Creative Corner. This was Season 1, Episode 14. I appreciate you very much, and I look forward to having you join me next time. Take care. Bye.